The click of thin heels sounded louder than they should have as Vivienne Carter stepped out of the hotel onto 7th Avenue. The scent of men's cologne still lingered on her hand, warm, woody, far too intimate for Dawn. Her coat was buttoned crookedly, and her lips were red, as if she'd walked out of a film that didn't exist. She fixed her hair, inhaled the city air, coffee, concrete, fog, and disappeared into the crowd. New York accepted her without questions. At home, it smelled of laundry. Michael, her husband, was already back from his shift, wearing a t-shirt with the clinic's logo where he managed logistics, oxygen, medicine, ambulance routes. He was frying eggs, answering something in a chat with pharmacists at the same time. Everything about him was real, reliable, grounded. And that scared her more than the dark hotel room. Vivienne didn't want to lie. She just didn't want to explain anything. At the office, charts, trading platforms, and negotiations with clients richer than countries awaited her. In the analyst's room, a giant screen displayed currency rates, under which she once again felt like a stranger. And though she was respected, even a little feared, she no longer recognized herself. The body in the designer suit had long been living another life. Lovers appeared not in paragraphs, but in episodes. One suggested a weekend in Montreal and lost his passport in the airport bathroom. She laughed while he argued with the border guard. Another, tall, tattooed, looking like an abandoned poet, jumped into her taxi as an angry bartender chased after them. It ended with her holding a broken phone and someone else's jacket and him texting her from a stranger's number. "You're like a fire." Vivienne didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Fires. Those were definitely not with Michael. And then there was the one who played the piano. With a mysterious past, a former broker who'd burned out after the crisis. Now he would place her hand on the keys, talk about the death of the dollar, and kiss her with a strange apocalyptic tenderness. The irony was, she really did love Michael, but deeply, from a distance. Not in bed, but in the way he searched for her headphones in the morning, the way he flicked the light switch twice because it was the right way. Vivienne wanted to have him, but not only him. In the evening, she got caught in a trap. One of her meetings was performing at a charity event, a stand-up comedian, as it turned out. And not just performing, he described an anonymous scene in an elevator with lingerie and trembling knees. Michael laughed, saying, "What an idiot, but it's a good joke." Vivienne broke out in a sweat. Her wine glass shook in her hand and her body screamed inside. Run. She didn't run. She woke up in the middle of the night, from shame, fear, and an inexplicable longing. And in the morning, she put on a white shirt again, dabbed on perfume, left the apartment with a smile that had already become part of her face. And somewhere in the subway, her gaze stopped on a stranger holding a Camus book. He looked at her as if he already knew how it would all end. And night came, earlier than it should have, as always. Michael had long refused to see. He noticed the traces, but didn't know how to read them. Those late returns of Vivienne's, that smile held a little too long, those sudden bursts of tenderness that appeared and vanished like an advertising illusion. He justified everything: stress, work, the city, even the new lingerie he saw in the laundry basket. Probably a gift. And the way her gaze turned away when she spoke. Probably just tired. He loved her simply, not for show. Through the morning porridge he made for their daughter, through her habit of hiding bills in the closet, through the way she, already half asleep, wiped off her lipstick with a napkin from a bar, not thinking he'd notice. But over time, the ignoring began to fester inside him. On the day she forgot to pick up their child from school, he felt something like ice inside. Ice that didn't melt, but grew. For the first time in a long while, he didn't go to the hospital. He sat in the car, listening to the silence, and everything in him screamed, "No, this isn't about you. She's just lost." But the silence already knew. He didn't follow her, didn't make scenes, didn't search her phone. He just stayed silent. And in that silence, Vivienne began to lose her footing. She was used to being caught, and then she'd lie, and someone would believe her. But now, just silence, only a look, steady and kind, but already without warmth. A look in which she no longer saw herself. He began to disappear, first physically, taking extra shifts, sleeping at the office, lingering in pharmacies, then emotionally. He didn't ask, didn't touch, didn't try to talk. Her lovers became brighter, more eccentric, more seductive, but the further it went, the more lifeless she felt. Because Michael was still there, and, at the same time, not anymore. One morning she found an empty closet. His things were gone. There was no note. Only neatly folded towels, as if in a hotel, and the warm trace of his cologne in the air. That was the first time she felt afraid. Not of loss, but of having no one left to lie to. He didn't reach out for weeks, but every few days something small would arrive. A children's book their daughter loved, sent by mail. Batteries for her electric toothbrush. A paid gym bill. No note, no words, just a reminder. I was here. I still am, but not for you anymore. Vivienne began to lose her face, not in front of others, but in front of herself. Her lovers faded one by one. Fear had once excited her, but now everything inside her screamed of exhaustion. From bodies, from glances, from other people's apartments, from the endless game where she was an actress with no finale. For the first time, she tried to write to him, but the screen shone with emptiness, and her fingers clenched in the air. She knew he wouldn't answer, not because he was angry, but because there was no space left for her in him. Half a year later, in an underground passage, she saw him by chance. He was walking with their daughter, holding her hand, laughing. He wore the old t-shirt she'd bought him for his birthday, before everything. She didn't approach. She couldn't. She stopped. And he didn't turn his head. But for a moment, he paused, as if he sensed something behind him, and then he walked on. The next day, a message arrived on her phone. No signature, no emotion, just 2 sentences. I've forgiven, but I haven't forgotten. Take care of yourself, because no one else will.